Hello there, my name's Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm making a grocery tote and I'm using a June Taylor template. I wanted this bag to be nice and sturdy, so I'm using a red denim for the interior of the bag. Now I could have just traced the template onto the denim, but I decided to go ahead and use it as additional strength. I want this to be a nice, strong bag. So I can't give you the exact measurements, but by using charm packs, which are 5-inch squares, you'll be able to see what size of tote bag you can get. I had a couple of these Valentine's Day charm packs with little hearts all over them. So first I'm going to lace them out, and it looks like I need 6 charm packs for the bottom of the bag. I decided to pick out some of the black colorways in the charm pack to keep the bottom of the bag from showing so much dirt. I placed a few straight pins in the 2 layers here just so I could keep it staying together. You could also spray baste if you wanted to. And it looks like my red denim is a little bit shorter than the template for this June Taylor bag, and I'm going to make allowance for that later on when I finish the top of the bag. You see me cutting out the box seam part on the template. If you want to cut out your own box seam, I suggest folding your bag in half and then cutting out a square from the right lower corner and the left lower corner on the fold, and making sure it is a square so that both sides are equal. Now I'm going to be stitching my charm squares right onto this template with the denim on the background. So it's kind of a quilt as you go project, although I didn't end up doing any quilting, just seam lines. Once I had the 2 squares on the bottom of the bag stitched down here, I started adding fabric on both sides to make one long 5-inch strip. In this pack there were white background colorways, red background colorways, and black colorways, so I was trying to alternate between the white and the red on both sides of the bag. When I got close to the top of the bag, it looked like I just needed a half of a charm square to fill in the excess. Once I stitched it, I trimmed off the other half of the charm square that I didn't need. I flipped the bag around and repeated this process on the other side of the bag. I used that half charm square that I cut off from the other side to finish this row to the top. Some of these charm squares have words on them, so I had to be sure the words were oriented towards the top of the bag. Now that I've got that first row done, I can sit down and design how I want the other rows to look. And then what I'm going to be doing is stitching those rows together and just making one long seam to attach it to the previous row. As I'm stitching these two rows together, I am nesting those seams between the charm squares. For the sides of the bag, there were 4 sections and I needed 3.5 charm squares for that. You might have noticed that some of my fabrics did not go quite to the edge, and you'll see here where I added on a few little extra strips to make it as wide as the June Taylor template. Once the front of the bag and the outside is all the way I want it, it's time to partially attach my straps. I'm using these charm squares to line up my straps and I'm pinning them in place. Sometimes I'll measure with a ruler, but for this I could just eyeball it because the charm squares made it easy to line up. Now I'm starting my stitching about 2 to 3 inches below the top of the bag, and I'm just stitching around the outside in a U shape to secure it. And once the rest of the bag is completed, we'll finish stitching down those straps. My next step is to fold the bag right sides together, and I'm going to stitch the 2 side seams, and I'm going to use a nice wide 5/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to stitch a straight seam. Next, I go over that same seam again with an applique stitch similar to a blanket stitch. Now we're going to do the box seam. So we're going to take that box seam opening and pull it open so that the bottom of the bag meets the side of the bag. Then I'm going to stitch that straight seam first at 5/8 of an inch seam and go back over it with that applique stitch. Now it's time to work on the top of the bag, and as I noted earlier, my red denim did not go all the way to the top of the bag. So what I've done is cut 2 strips with the fabric that are 4.5 inches wide. I'm going to join those together. Now what I'm going to do is fold over the front edge of this black 4.5 inch wide fabric, and I'm going to press that nice and flat. Then I'm going to fold it up over the inside of the bag to cover up that where that red denim does not go to the top, and then I'll fold it back over to the front to finish. So we'll get started here pressing that. Then I did take the time to measure the widest part of missing denim, and it was about 1.25 inches. Then I went around the whole bag, measuring 1.25 inches down from the top of the bag, and made marks so that I would have a line to line up my black fabric. Next, I went around and stitched that black fabric to the inside of the bag, and I trimmed it just past the fold at the beginning. And here's how that looks after I stitched onto the inside of the bag. I'm going to be folding this up and then over to the front of the bag with a couple of folds. I'm going to go all the way around the bag, folding it this way and clipping that into place so I can stitch it down. One thing you'll want to watch out for is that your straps don't get stuck in these seams. I looked at some of the decorative stitches that I have sampled for this machine and picked an asterisk. I have some silvery gray thread in my machine right now, and that's going to look really great to stitch down this black fabric. This looks really nice for the top of this shopping tote. Now, the last thing we've got to do to this bag is secure the straps the rest of the way to the top of the bag. So again, I'm just putting those under the machine and stitching that U shape the opposite way, and my straps will all be secure. All that's left to do now is trim away some threads and turn this bag right side out. Here are some views of this finished grocery tote bag. I've got a 12-pack of LaCroix water, sparkling water, in my bag here just to kind of keep it upright for you. It holds quite a bit. It would hold a couple of 12 packs plus maybe a roll of paper towels. So pretty good sized bag. That denim interior has made it very, very sturdy. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you back again real soon.